Hey everyone, welcome back to the last day of our quick walkthrough on how to unlock the abilities of large language models like GPT using code. I'm Alex with AI Camp, and today is where we get to put everything we learned all together and build something really cool and useful. Let's get right into it. Okay, everyone, welcome to the final day of this course, implementing an auto summarizer. Today, we're going to create a summarization bot that uses GPT-3's most powerful model to summarize any length text into whatever format we want. We're going to also take one last look at the discussion around how should AI systems behave and who should get to decide. And hopefully today, you'll leave with a firm understanding of prompt engineering, how it can help us create more complex projects with GPT-3, and ideas on how to use it to build something new going forward. Welcome to the wonderful world of prompt engineering. Getting the best content out of your language models all starts with crafting the perfect prompt. Even something as simple as saying, "Let's think step by step," can drastically improve performance. Actually, there was a paper released called Large Language Models Are Zero-Shot Reasoners, showing that you could say, "Let's think step by step," and it would encourage the model to do exactly the same. What's cool is that it drastically impacts performance. So what you're looking at here is accuracy on arithmetic or math problems, and without adding anything to the end of the prompt, it's very often incorrect. In fact, it's only 18% accurate. But if you add "let's think step by step" to the end of the prompt, it suddenly becomes almost 80% accurate, and you can see that in action here. So for example, when asked, "A juggler can juggle 16 balls, half of the balls are golf balls, half of the golf balls are blue, how many golf balls are there?" The unmodified model and the output was 8, which was incorrect. Now, if we added "let's think step by step" to the same problem, then there would be an output that follows step by step. There are 16 balls in total, half of them are golf balls, that means there are 8 golf balls, half the golf balls are blue, that means there are 4 blue golf balls. That's able to, with just the shifting of the prompt, encourage the model to have a much more useful output. This thinking step by step is called chain of thought prompting, and the original paper showed that you could have a question and an answer with an example breaking it down step by step. And then if you asked another question, it would be able to mimic the above format, yielding more accurate results. Now they've shown that you don't need to give that example. You can just ask the prompt to think step by step with language, which is really powerful. We talked about that chain of thought prompting here, but in general, prompt engineering is the secret sauce to getting the most out of large language models. One way to look at it is you're trying to pass in text that would most likely come before the output that you're looking for. I really think of it like I am imagining the content I want out on the internet. What comes right before it in a forum or on a Reddit thread or on Twitter or Pinterest? What text is leading into the material that I'm really looking for? So if I'm looking for a really great breakdown that I might see out of Harvard Business Review, then I might use a prompt saying, like I would see in Harvard Business Review, a breakdown of this topic focused on being extremely clear and concise and emphasizing the key points well. That might be what I'm looking for, but there is a huge range of potential options. Let's say you wanted to use GPT-3 to write a story. If you gave the model a prompt including the genre, characters, and setting, then it would be able to create a story that much more accurately fits your vision. You can even use a new tool called LangChain to chain together actions into a multi-step prompt, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Prompt engineering can be used for a wide variety of tasks: translation, question answering. You can make GPT-3 work for you in ways that you never thought possible. Researchers showed that prompt engineering is so powerful, you can put examples of translations in a prompt, and the translation capabilities can outperform Google Translate, a model fine-tuned specifically for that purpose. That's just one example of the research coming out showing that if you're really intentional with the information that you put into a prompt, these models can make magic with it. The best part, I think, is that anybody can do it. If you're creative and stick to it with some trial and error, you can really create an awesome prompt that will get you results you want. It's almost like making magic spells. There are a few resources here that I would encourage you to dive into if you're interested in this topic, but really the best way to learn is just get hands-on, and that's what we're going to get into. Here are a few examples of how prompt engineering could really supercharge the app we made in day 3. If we wanted to generate a story like we talked about before, our prompt might be, imagine a world where, and then we can insert a theme, is the norm. Write a story that captures the essence of this world and its inhabitants. We might want to translate with a prompt like this, or generate a specific tone or sentiment with a prompt like this. These are just basic examples to get you thinking, but prompt engineering can be much more detailed and, like I said, yield incredible results. The key is to make it as specific and as clear as possible. The more specific and clear is, the more likely the model will actually generate text that's relevant and accurate to the task at hand. The best way to learn, like I said, is through practice. So here's some code from day 3. Can you try modifying it to implement one of the above examples? I'm going to try this one, but go ahead and give any of these a shot using our main here and drop in our code from yesterday and try and modify this to solve one of these problems. Okay, so hopefully you were able to mess around a little bit with prompt engineering and start seeing what different prompts can get you. We're going to go ahead and go through trying to make a story with our tool that we created yesterday. The only change that we need to make is to the prompt here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this code, but we can look at what's changed. The only thing we did is instead of passing the input string in directly to our prompt here, we passed it in as the topic we were talking about. So imagine a world where, okay, we're describing the world is the norm. We also included information about our max length right here. So you notice how we can modify the prompt in different ways to give context of the exact output we're looking for. And this will change each time our max length changes. And if you're wondering why it's max length times 0.75, it's because each token is approximately 75% of a word. So if we're trying to get word count, which is what we're describing here, then we can modify just like so. If we were to run this, we can really quickly see that it loads up and we can try it out. So if our input string is a theme around a world that we want to have imagined, let's go ahead and try something like education was the most important thing. And give us just a quick short story here. 200 words should be great. And what do we got? The world was a place of learning and knowledge. Education was the most important thing, and everyone was encouraged to pursue it. Every day, children would go to school and learn something new. They'd be taught the basics of math, science, and language, and the importance of critical thinking. We've got a nice little story here, ending with the world was a place of knowledge and growth. Education was the most important. So clearly it was pulled in and seems to wrap it up here at the end. So it's not leaving us on a cliffhanger because of not knowing how long the length of the story that we're looking for was. So this looks like a pretty good first pass. So from here, our next step is going to be making a prompt for content. Spend some time to think about it and make a prompt before we go to the next page. How do you want to summarize your content? Is there a way you can make a prompt adjustable so you can modify it on the fly? Think about it. And then you can compare with our suggestions on the next page and see which one you prefer, because there's no right answer here. All right. So hopefully you were able to make a prompt that you think will provide great summarizations of content. A few things I thought about when making my prompt was first, well, what did I want the output to look like? When I'm thinking summarization, I think 3 different things. 1, bullet points, key information, every single thing that's there, but shrunk into bullet points. A second might be an executive summary. Maybe it's just a high-level description of the content that I'm looking at. And the third might be keeping every single thing in there except for the most irrelevant context. So maybe shrinking the word count of the above content without losing any information. So I thought of the type of information I had, and then I also wanted to give it a little bit of context to encourage a specific viewpoint. In this case, imagining what a great writer might do to hopefully improve that end quality. And lastly, it's often a good idea to sandwich your content between instructions. So you can see here, I said, imagine a great writer, summarize the following content while keeping all the information. Then you put the key information in here, create a visual distinction between that information and the actual prompt itself, and then say, inspired by great writers, either convert to bullet points, write an executive summary, or shrink the word count insert the length so that it has some context of length there as well. This is the prompt that we came up with. We'll go ahead and drop it in here, just replacing the prompt, nice and easy. Make sure we are indented. But to implement this, we're gonna need to add a drop down to our Gradio interface to make sure that we can select which one of those styles we're looking at. We'll also want to increase our max length to 1,000 tokens if we are starting to summarize larger content. But keep in mind that every time you run a summary, if it has 4,000 characters of input, which is about 1,000 tokens, and 1,000 characters of output, it's going to cost you about 4 cents a run. So keep that in mind while you're running these queries, and you can just follow along on the video if you don't want to run them yourself. So I'll go ahead and copy these few changes that we had here. 1, changing our slider to 0 to 1,000. 2, adding a drop down here. 3, adding a little bit of placeholder text so we have some context. And we can't forget to make sure that we add a style here to be able to take in that input from the dropdown. All right, let's go ahead and give it a run. And we're gonna go ahead and summarize this brand new OpenAI blog post called How Should AI Systems Behave and Who Should Decide? I'd really encourage you guys to check out this blog post. It's OpenAI talking about ChatGPT's behavior, how they shaped it to date, their plans for improving it, allowing more customization, and getting the public involved in their making there. It's only about a 6-minute read, so I'd encourage you to read the whole thing. But say we were in a rush, or we wanted to get a quick summary before we jumped in to read the whole thing ourselves. We could go ahead and copy everything, bring it to our Gradio. Say we wanted a max length of maybe about 100. Let's go for an executive summary in about 150 words. I think that sounds good. And we have an output. Let's see what it says. OpenAI's mission is to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. We're committed to robustly addressing the issues of biases in design and impact of AI systems, and being transparent about our intentions and progress. Investing in research and engineering to reduce glaring and subtle biases in how ChatGPT responds, and developing an upgrade to allow users to easily customize its behavior, while striking the right balance between that customization and malicious users. They're exploring partnerships with external organizations to conduct audits and piloting efforts to solicit public inputs on topics like system behavior. And they're going to share more in the coming months. Great, we got a quick summary there of that blog post. How are the results? How much did they cost? Well, I'm not sure. We don't have a counter there, but if we went to the OpenAI playground, we could go ahead and paste the input that we passed in and see just how long it is. We can see it's about 2,000 tokens. We had an additional 150 here that we added to the output. If we looked at the pricing that we've looked at before, we'd be able to see that DaVinci model costs about 2 cents per 1,000 tokens. So we're passing in just over 2,000. So we're looking at about 4 cents for that query. Something to keep in mind as we go forward. We did that and we had no issues, but there's one critical way this app needs to be changed to be improved and set in production. Namely, it can't summarize anything over 4,000 tokens right now. How would you go about doing that? Before going to the next page, which is going to be the last thing that we do, try and take a second to think about how you would build an automated solution to summarize any length text. One useful tool might be TextWrap, a Python library that can easily convert long-form text into smaller chunks. You can see an example right here. I'll go ahead and pause and give you a sec to try and implement this on your own. All right, so hopefully you were able to come up with a solution on your own, but regardless, we'll go through this all together. So one approach that we could use to summarize any length text that we just alluded to is breaking it into small enough chunks to summarize each chunk and then put them all back together. We could even take that squished back output and pass it back in, getting an even smaller summary. And that's how we could do it recursively. Below is my implementation of the first part of that, just chunking it and summarizing it. So if we paste it here into our main, we can go through it together. We can see here that we're taking the same inputs, our text, our max length, and our style that we would in our generate text GPT function regardless. All we're doing is we're using the TextRack library that we can go ahead and import here at the top to take our text and chunk it into chunks of 4,000 characters. We make a results list, and for each of those chunks, we get our output from ChatGPT and append our summary to those results. Last thing we have down here, which is one of the last few things that we've got to change, is the ability to save our file. We're paying money for these summaries. We're passing them into a paid API. We want to make sure that we can save them. So we actually have a function here to save that file that we can add to the top as well, that we'll be able to save our output to our outputs folder. A couple last things that we'll want to change. One, make sure that our Gradio interface is referencing is our chunk summarize, not our generate text GPT function. And because we're using that time to add context to our output names, we'll want to make sure that we import that as well. All right, so that should be all we need. Let's go ahead and give this a run. While this is running, I want you guys to think about what kind of content you can summarize. What is useful for you? Is it news stories, essays, an academic paper? What is useful for you? Podcasts, YouTube videos. What do you want summarized and in what format? One thing that comes to mind for me, I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, is every year there's a current state of education report created by the US government that I'd love to check out. The National Center for Education Statistics, the NCES, actually every year is congressionally mandated to create an annual report summarizing the latest data from NCES and other sources on education in the US. This report, if we go ahead and click into it, we can see is 46 pages long. I'm going to go ahead and Control A, copy everything, and drop that into our Gradio app. What kind of output do I want? I'd love to chunk this into maybe about 100-word executive summaries, and I'll go ahead and hit submit. This is going to take quite a while because it's going through that whole 46-page document. In fact, we can see that it's automatically counted how many chunks we have, and there are 34. But we can see the outputs are already coming in and they look nice. The National Center for Education Statistics is the primary federal entity. It includes 52 indicators ranging from student enrollment and graduation rates. So it looks like it's accurately giving me short summaries, which is just what I was looking for. Now, when this finishes running, I'll save this file and include it in the REPL so you can check it out if you're interested. But for now, let's hop into our final touches. There are so many ways these projects can go further. Today's the end of our quick course, but it's just the start of your journey with these large language models. If this is an interesting tool to you and it's useful, make it better. These tools are radically changing the way our digital world interacts with language, and there's so much opportunity there. OpenAI released a state-of-the-art voice-to-text model called Whisper in September 2022. You could use that to easily convert any voice to text across many different languages easily. Open source, you can integrate that into your own product and sell that, and that's totally legal. There's so much opportunity, and I hope to hear what you guys have been working on and how you're using these large language models. Reach out on social media, tag us, or come to our camp this year. In summary, today in day 4, we learned about prompt engineering and how to use it to solve more complex problems. We created an auto summarizer that can summarize any length text into any format we want, and once more discussed those ethical considerations using powerful language models. If you're a teenager interested in joining a community solving problems with technology and exploring careers in tech, check out AI Camp. We've got 1 and 3 week courses, but you guys have heard that before. Again, a big shout out to our Team Tomorrow members. This time, Jaden Kavanaugh was a huge help in putting together this day 4. Big shout out, Jaden. We really hope that you guys got a lot out of this course. We think it's a really important one. That's why we put the time to put this together. That and trying to get as many people to apply to our AI Camp scholarship as possible at aicamp.org/scholarship. Please make sure to share this course, share the scholarship, and don't be a stranger. Please reach out, share it on social media, tag me. I'd love to see what you do. Thanks again for taking this AI Camp Learn module. It's been a pleasure. My name's Alex. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day.